After decades hidden away, a diary entry from Muhammad Ali revealed a haunting prayer he whispered before each fight. What did this iconic champion plead for in his most vulnerable moments? And how did it shape the legacy of a fighter the world adored? The discovery of the diary in a forgotten box at a charity auction rekindled the debate about Ali's humanity beyond the ring, a juxtaposition to his larger-than-life persona. In the small town of Gold River, Colorado, this revelation ignited a firestorm among local boxing enthusiasts and historians. The diary's prayer, simple yet profound, spoke to themes of courage, humility, and a desire for peace. Among those captivated was Timmy Jenkins, a scrappy 14-year-old, with dreams of becoming a boxing champion like Ali. Timmy's room, a shrine to the sport, was plastered with posters of legendary fighters. Yet deep down he struggled with self-doubt, often wondering if he had what it took to rise to the top. Timmy's father, Derek, a former boxer turned mechanic, had championed his son's passion but was skeptical about the sport's brutality. "Boxing is no joke, Timmy. It takes more than just a good punch," he often warned, reminding him of the physical and emotional toll the sport exacted. Timmy's mom, Janine, always supportive, encouraged him to pursue his goals, but worried about the dangers involved. Their constant bickering about Timmy's future created an emotional rift in the household, pushing Timmy to seek solace and inspiration in the diary's entries he had read. One evening, as Timmy pored over the newfound treasure, he found the prayer that Ali recited before stepping into the ring. The words swirled in his mind. "Guide my hands, strengthen my heart, grant me humility in victory and grace in defeat." Those lines struck a deep chord within him, illuminating the path he needed to forge. He began to recite the prayer silently before every training session, feeling a sense of calm wash over him, a stark contrast to the chaos brewing at home. As weeks turned into months, Timmy's training intensified. He spent hours in the local gym, sweat drenching his shirt while he shadowboxed and sparred with others. His coach, an old-timer named Coach Riley, noticed Timmy's newfound determination. "What's gotten into you, kid? You're hitting harder than ever," he remarked one late afternoon, wiping his brow as he leaned against the gym's worn-out wall. "Just trying to be the best, Coach," Timmy replied, glancing at a poster of Ali hanging above the ring. "You know, I found this diary, and it's got me thinking differently about what I want." Little did Timmy know that his fierce dedication and emotional turmoil at home would soon collide. One evening, a local boxing event was announced, and that meant Timmy would have the opportunity to showcase his skills, but the excitement was quickly overshadowed by a blow-up between his parents. "Why can't you just let him be a kid, Derek?" Janine shouted, frustration spilling over as plates clattered in the kitchen. "All you ever talk about is boxing, and you expect him to fight like he's Ali." "He needs discipline, Janine, not just a pat on the back and a ticket to a fight," Derek retorted, his voice firm and unwavering. Timmy listened from the hallway, his heart sinking. The atmosphere in the house was electric with tension, yet he clung to Ali's prayer like a shield. In the days leading up to the event, Timmy felt the weight of their conflict press down on him, and with each passing moment, the prayer loomed larger in his mind. He realized that he not only needed strength in the ring, but also the courage to face his family's discord. This fight wouldn't just be about proving himself, it was about healing. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your comment. And there's something very important. Click the hype button. This helps a lot to deliver this content to more people. It's quick, but it makes all the difference. With the event just around the corner, Timmy stood on the precipice of a pivotal moment in his young life. His journey was only beginning, and the prayer he had embraced would shape the man he was destined to become. Timmy woke the next morning with the sun filtering through his bedroom window, golden rays spilling onto the floor. Today was the day of the local boxing event, a chance to forget the turmoil at home and immerse himself in a world where he felt alive. He got out of bed, heart pounding with anticipation. He could hear the faint sounds of his parents arguing in the kitchen, but they faded into the background as he focused on his own thoughts. He dressed quickly, donning his favorite boxing shorts, red, the color of passion, and a plain white tank top. After brushing his teeth, he glanced at the worn notebook on his desk, where he had transcribed Ali's prayer. It felt like a lifeline, a reminder that there was more to boxing than just punches and bruises. This was about spirit, about perseverance, and about seeking strength not just in the ring, but in life. Once downstairs, Timmy found his mother Janine sitting at the table, her eyes fixed on a steaming cup of coffee. She looked up as he entered, a slight smile breaking through her earlier frustration. "Morning, champ," she said, her voice softer now. The tension lingered still, like a thin veil over their conversation. "Mum, I'll be okay today," Timmy reassured her, glancing over at the doorway where Derek lingered, arms crossed, his expression stern. "I just want to focus on my fight." "Timmy, you need to train hard. This isn't just about having fun," Derek interjected, the edge returning to his tone. "You have to give it your all. Ali didn't become a champ by just showing up." "I know, Dad," Timmy replied, feeling the weight of expectation, but the resolve to remain positive washed over him. "I will." Frustration bubbled beneath the surface, but Timmy steeled himself. He needed to balance both his parents' expectations for him and his own dreams. He breathed deeply, recalling the calm strength in the prayer Ali once cherished. As they made their way to the event, the tension in the car simmered, arguments about who was right and who was wrong echoing off the walls of the empty space. Janine suddenly turned to Timmy. "Just remember, honey, it's about you out there. Don't think about us. Focus on your fight." "Yeah," Derek added. "Just keep your head in the game. You're going to do great." Timmy nodded, but inside, he felt a tightening in his chest. It wasn't just about proving something in the ring, it was about quieting the storm at home. As they arrived at the venue, a local gym filled with the buzzing anticipation of eager spectators, Timmy took a moment to absorb the atmosphere. The smell of sweat and determination hung thick in the air, and he felt a buzz of excitement course through him. He headed to the locker room, greeted by other young fighters. Among them was his friend Jason, a cocky kid who always seemed to glide effortlessly into the ring. "You ready for this, Timmy?" Jason asked with a sly grin. "Heard your dad's a real hard ass on you. Hope you don't choke." "Not today, Jason," Timmy shot back, his voice steadier than he felt. He couldn't let others dictate his spirit. He had Ali's words wrapped around his heart. They were a mantra now. In that moment, Timmy's focus shifted completely from his parents to the fight ahead. He forgot everything else, immersing himself in the rhythm of his warm-up routine. He could feel the adrenaline build, the anticipation filling his veins. He practiced his jabs and footwork, the familiar movements grounding him amid the noise of anxious parents and eager spectators. Minutes passed, feeling like hours as he waited for his turn. The sound of his heart thudded in his chest, drowning out the chatter around him. Yet in the stillness, he heard a whisper of reassurance. The prayer echoed softly in his mind, urging him to embrace this moment, to channel his fears into strength. Finally, the announcer's voice cut through the air, introducing the competitors. Timmy caught a glimpse of the boy he would face, a towering opponent who seemed well prepared and confident. The boy's smile contrasted sharply with Timmy's own determination. He was ready for a battle. As he stepped into the ring, the world faded away. The roar of the crowd became a distant hum, and the only thing that mattered was the fight, the dance of movement, and the spirit of resilience that coursed through him. He took a deep breath, allowing the energy of the arena to flow into him. This was it. This was where he belonged. As the bell rang, signaling the start of the first round, a surge of adrenaline coursed through Timmy. The towering opponent stood across from him, fists raised in a defensive stance. For a fleeting moment, Timmy's heart raced with doubt. Was he really ready for this? The boy's confident grin felt like a challenge, but the words from Ali echoed softly in the back of his mind, urging him to focus. The fight began with swift jabs and hard blocks that sent shockwaves through the ring. Timmy ducked and swayed, honing in on his opponent's movements, searching for openings. Yet with each punch he threw, he felt the tension from the bleachers pressing down on him. His parents, once sources of encouragement, now felt like the weight of his world. Every cheer from the crowd seemed to amplify his self-doubt. "Come on, champ!" someone shouted, but it felt like a plea rather than motivation. The towering boy's speed was surprising. Timmy found himself on the defensive, taking a couple of hits that stung and made him question his resolve. He dodged a powerful right hook, but stumbled back, catching a glimpse of the disapproving faces in the audience. The pressure mounted, and Timmy felt himself slipping under the expectations. He retreated a step, trying to recall Ali's wisdom. It wasn't just about throwing punches, it was about strategy, heart, and belief. But in the heat of the moment, Timmy felt a wave of frustration wash over him. He had come too far to let despair settle in. In the second round, the boy landed another blow, this time to Timmy's ribs. It knocked the wind out of him, and as he gasped for breath, a voice in his mind whispered doubts. What would happen if he lost? His parents had invested so much into this. Would they be disappointed? He glanced at them, and their anxious faces fueled his resolve. They were counting on him. "Stay in the zone, Timmy," he chided himself. He needed to remember why he was fighting, not just for his parents, but for himself too. The memory of Ali's prayer surged through his thoughts, reminding him of the power of humility. It wasn't about defeating his opponent, it was about honoring himself and growing along the way. With renewed vigor, Timmy decided to change his strategy. Instead of just absorbing blows, he planned to regain control. He studied his opponent, looking for weaknesses. The towering boy had a slow reaction time on his left side. Timing his next moves would be crucial. He had to channel the fear and turn it into fuel. As the second round progressed, Timmy found his rhythm. He danced around the ring, bouncing lightly on his feet. When the opportunity arose, he unleashed a flurry of jabs, catching the boy off guard. For the first time, he saw a flicker of concern in the other boy's expression. That brief moment of vulnerability ignited a spark within Timmy. He could do this. But just as he began to feel momentum shifting, the second round ended, and Timmy returned to his corner, panting heavily. His coach leaned in, eyes fierce with determination. "You've got it, Timmy. Just keep moving. Trust yourself." The encouragement felt electric, but doubt lingered in the back of his mind. As the final round approached, Timmy felt a knot of anxiety twist in his stomach. What if all his efforts weren't enough? What if he failed to live up to the expectations? The weight of the moment threatened to crush him. Yet as the bell rang and he stepped back into the fray, he clung tightly to that prayer whispered by a champion years ago, a reminder that vulnerability could be his greatest strength. Each punch thrown was no longer just an act of fighting, it was an expression of resilience. The roaring crowd faded into the background as Timmy focused solely on himself and the fight unfolding. He had a chance to honor the spirit of Muhammad Ali, not just as a boxer, but as a young man learning to rise against the trials life handed him. As Timmy danced across the ring, sweat glistening on his brow, a wave of determination washed over him. He remembered the words of Muhammad Ali, holding tightly to that prayer whispered in the shadows of his own vulnerabilities. It resonated deep within as he faced his opponent, A realization dawned. This fight was more than just about winning. It was a test of character, a moment to prove not only his skills but to embrace his true self. In that fleeting moment, he felt a shift within. The fear that had knotted his stomach began to unravel, and clarity emerged. Each jab he threw was not just a punch, it was a declaration of his worth. He recalled the stories he had heard about Ali, how the legendary champion had fought against opponents in and out of the ring, battling not only flesh and blood, but also the critics and doubts that clung to him. The bell rang for the final round, and with it, the atmosphere shifted. It was palpable. The crowd was on the edge of their seats, the sounds of encouragement and critiques mingling in a chaotic symphony. His trainer leaned in one last time, eyes wide with fervor. "Timmy, just be you. Trust that prayer, it's got your back." With each passing second, Timmy focused inward. The ring transformed in his mind, morphing from a mere boxing arena into a sacred space where strength met vulnerability. The boy he once was seemed distant now. He was no longer just a kid wearing oversized gloves. He was a fighter, a young man stepping into his own power. The doubts, fears, and whispers from the sidelines dissolved, leaving only the rhythm of his heartbeat and the fierce determination to honor that prayer. Timmy pivoted, shifting his weight effortlessly as he unleashed a series of quick punches. The opponent, momentarily stunned by the sudden ferocity, faltered. The recognition of his own strength surged forward. He pressed on, driving home each jab with purpose, visualizing Ali's face in his mind. The essence of the champion pushed him onward, and for the first time he felt the connection to Ali, to every fighter who had ever stepped into a ring, and to himself. Suddenly, an unexpected blow landed square on Timmy's ribs. Pain sparked like fire through him, and he staggered back, the breath knocked out of his lungs. The crowd gasped, the noise swirling around him like a storm. Doubt crept back in, but in that moment, something clicked within him. Instead of retreating into the shadow of defeat, he reminded himself of that prayer, the strong belief that vulnerability could summon courage. "God, give me strength," he whispered under his breath, drawing from the depths of his spirit. Gritting his teeth, Timmy squared his shoulders and moved forward. He remembered Ali's fights, the moments when he had been pushed to the brink but found the strength to rise again. The pain was just an obstacle, temporary and surmountable. He took a deep breath, his chest rising and falling in rhythm with the relentless beat of the fight. With a newfound perspective, he regained his footing. Timmy's movements were more fluid, as if the prayer itself was guiding him, weaving the strength of resilience into his punches. The opponent, sensing a shift, hurried to close the gap, but Timmy was ready. He ducked, swayed, and pivoted, becoming a blur of determination, firing off solid punches, catching the boy off guard once again. The crowd erupted into cheers, the noise a surge of adrenaline. "You got this, Timmy!" rang out among the medley. The energy of the audience surged through him, each cheer amplifying his resolve. In those moments, he wasn't just fighting for a win. He was fighting to honor everything he had learned from Ali, from that diary he had stumbled upon, and from every struggle he had faced along the way. As the final seconds ticked away, Timmy could feel his heart racing, but this time it wasn't fear. It was exhilaration. The bell rang, signaling the end of the match, and he stood there, chest heaving, a sense of calm washing over him. No matter the outcome, he had transformed. He had fought not just an opponent, but doubts that had lurked shadow-like in the back of his mind. When the referee raised his hand, it didn't matter whether it was in victory or defeat. He felt reborn, a realization that the battle was not just against flesh, but a fight for self-acceptance. The prayer he had whispered, the strength he had drawn from it, would resonate far beyond the ring. Timmy had learned that true victory lay in resilience, and that would shape him for years to come. As the bell rang and the crowd's cheers began to fade, Timmy stepped out of the ring, heart pounding, sweat dripping down his face. He was caught in the moment, a whirlwind of emotions surging through him. Victory or defeat didn't matter. He felt strong, empowered by the knowledge that he had shown up, not only for the fight, but for the little boy he had once been, who had watched Ali on television and dreamed of greatness. He was grateful to have discovered that worn diary, its pages filled with Ali's thoughts and prayers, and how it had transformed his perspective. Yet the journey was not over. Timmy could sense the tension in the air as he made his way through the backstage area. His coach, Frank, stood by the door, arms crossed, his brow furrowed in contemplation. "You did good, kid, but don't celebrate just yet. The next fight is crucial," Frank said, his voice steady but laced with urgency. "You have to keep that fire burning." Timmy nodded, his heart still racing, the echoes of the crowd still vibrating in his ears. "I know, Frank. I felt it out there." "I really felt Ali's spirit guide me," he replied, surprising himself with the certainty in his voice. "Then let's channel that for the next round. We need to focus on your footwork and that defensive stance. You let your guard down a little too much out there." Frank's eyes burned with a passion for the sport, showcasing the bond they had developed over the years. Timmy took a deep breath, the adrenaline slowly ebbing, replaced by a steely determination. He returned to the gym every day, thirsty for knowledge, eager to adapt. Each afternoon brought a cascade of training sessions, shadowboxing under the fluorescent lights, sparring with local contenders, and conducting drills that pushed his limits. But it wasn't just physical exertion, mental strength was equally crucial. Alone at night, Timmy often found himself in front of the mirror, reciting Ali's prayer, feeling the words flow through him. It wasn't just a chant, it was a means of grounding himself, a reminder of the resilience he wanted to embody. "Help me to be strong, help me to be brave," he'd whisper, wondering if Ali had felt the same weight of expectation before his own monumental bouts. Days turned into weeks, and as the next fight drew near, the atmosphere shifted. The tension was palpable. The gym, once a sanctuary, buzzed with palpable nervousness. Other fighters joked and laughed, but Timmy felt the pressure mounting. What if he lost? What if he stepped into that ring and failed? The voice of doubt whispered, but he silenced it with the mantra that Ali had penned, "It's not about the fall. It's about how you rise." On the night of the fight, the arena pulsed with energy. Fans filled the seats, their cheers a deafening ocean of support. As Timmy stood in the locker room, he could feel his hands trembling. He looked down the corridor leading to the ring, the path he would soon take. "Remember, it's not just about winning, it's about fighting for who you are and where you came from," Frank reminded him, standing beside him, the small, warm light of the locker room casting soft shadows on their faces. "You got this, Timmy. Just keep your head clear and your spirit strong," he added, placing a hand on Timmy's shoulder. With a final deep breath, Timmy pulled himself together. Cracking his knuckles, he repeated the prayer in his mind. As he stepped into the light, the crowd roared, and the weight of all his training flooded back to him. This moment was a culmination of fears faced, doubts conquered, and goals reached. He took his place in the ring, adrenaline rushing through him as he met the gaze of his opponent. The other boy was fierce and confident, but Timmy felt a calm settling within. He had fought the biggest battles in his heart and mind. Tonight was just another challenge to overcome. As the referee signaled the start, Timmy drew strength from the words he had chanted countless times. His heart was no longer just racing. It was beating in rhythm with the legacy of a fighter he had come to admire deeply. There was no turning back now. The bell rang, sharp and clear, slicing through the tension in the air as Timmy squared off against his opponent in the ring. The cheers roared louder, a cacophony of voices that echoed in his ears, but he found a profound silence within. Instinctively he shifted his weight, remembering the words he had clung to like a lifeline, the prayer that had guided him through the storm of his fears. Timmy's opponent, A larger boy with a fierce demeanor lunged forward, fists raised, but Timmy's mind was focused. He bobbed and weaved, remembering Frank's advice about staying light on his feet. Each move was deliberate, a dance that had become second nature through countless hours of practice. They exchanged blows, the sharp sound of fists meeting flesh reverberating around them, but Timmy felt alive, the fight igniting something deep within him. He was not just fighting for victory, he was fighting for his identity, for everything that had led him to this moment. The crowd's excitement surged, mirroring the adrenaline pumping through Timmy's veins. One jab landed perfectly. A surge of exhilaration flooded him. But his opponent retaliated quickly, landing a solid hit to Timmy's ribs that took the wind out of him. Pain shot through his side, but it tempered his resolve rather than break it. He could hear Frank's voice in his mind, urging him to remain determined. "Dig deep, Timmy!" Frank's words echoed in his heart. "Show them who you are." Timmy gritted his teeth, forcing himself to breathe deeply as he backed off for just a moment, regrouping. He focused again, drawing from the prayer that had resonated with him before the match, a whisper of hope in his heart. "Let me be strong. Let me be brave." The words wrapped around him like a shield, weaving courage into his spirit. Then, in the chaotic rhythm of the fight, he saw an opening. His opponent was overextending, trying for a heavy right hook. Timmy slipped to the side, using the momentum against him. He felt the rush of the crowd fading slightly, the sounds almost muted as he executed a counter with precision. His fist connected strongly with his opponent's jaw, sending the larger boy staggering back. For a brief moment, time stood still. The arena fell silent, every spectator holding its breath. This was the turning point. Timmy could sense the shift in the atmosphere. He wasn't just an underdog anymore. He was a force to be reckoned with. With newfound intensity, Timmy pressed forward, channeling every ounce of strength. He remembered his humble beginnings, the countless hours spent training, the dream of proving himself not just to the world, but to the boy who had once doubted he could ever be a fighter. Each punch became a testament to his journey, a celebration of resilience. His opponent, shaken but determined, regained composure and came back swinging, but Timmy was ready. He danced around the blows, feeling empowered by every step he took. His training had never felt more alive. The arena erupted as he landed a flurry of jabs, a rhythm now as natural as breathing. The final round began. Timmy felt the weight of exhaustion pulling at him, but it was a familiar burden. The thoughts of why he fought surged forward, the faces of his family and friends flashing through his mind. He didn't just fight for glory, he fought for his community, for those who believed in him despite the odds. With one last rallying cry from the crowd, Timmy summoned every last bit of energy. He caught his opponent off balance once again and went in for a decisive strike. The world around him blurred as he focused. Everything boiled down to this singular moment. He threw a clean, powerful right hook, finding its mark perfectly. His opponent crumpled to the mat, the referee rushing in as the crowd erupted in a jubilant roar. Breathing heavily, Timmy stood there, soaking in the moment. This wasn't just a victory in the ring, it was the culmination of every prayer he had whispered, every doubt he had faced, every setback that had threatened to overwhelm him. He had transformed from the scared boy who hesitated into a fighter who now stood proud. As the referee raised his hand in victory, Timmy looked out at the sea of faces, illuminated by the bright lights of the arena. In that moment, he understood what it truly meant to fight, not just to win, but to embody his dreams, to stand tall in the face of fear, and to become the champion of his own story. Timmy basked in the glory of his victory, the crowd's roar still echoing in his ears. Sweat dripped down his brow as he stepped back from the ring, every cheer reaffirming his victory, not just for himself, but for everyone who believed in him. The lights twinkled like stars above as he was escorted through the buzzing arena, trying to absorb the gravity of what he had accomplished. But beneath the surface of that triumphant wave was a current of uncertainty. He recalled the haunting prayer that had become a ritual before every fight, one that had haunted his thoughts and molded him into the fighter he was today. Give me strength. Protect my family. Let me be brave. Each word echoed in his mind, a whisper that had forged his resolve. In that instant of clarity, Timmy understood that his journey was far from over. The aftermath of the fight brought both exhilaration and reflection. As he stepped outside into the crisp night air of Philadelphia, he felt a strange blend of elation and apprehension. The neighborhood had gathered outside, eager to celebrate his win. Friends, family, and local supporters greeted him with cheers, enveloping him in hugs and high fives. Yet in the back of his mind lingered the thoughts of what lay ahead. Timmy remembered the faces of those who had doubted him, who had watched with skepticism as he trained tirelessly, dreaming of becoming a champion. He had fought not just to win a title, but to silence the naysayers, to prove to himself that he could rise above the challenges life threw at him. His phone buzzed in his pocket, and he pulled it out to see messages flooding in, congratulations from friends and family. But one stood out, a text from his childhood coach, Mr. Harrison. "Tonight was spectacular, Timmy. But remember, a champion's journey is not just about winning, it's how you inspire others. Focus on that." The words struck a chord deep within him. Timmy had always viewed boxing as a personal battle, but tonight illuminated a different perspective. It was about community and legacy. With a new sense of purpose, he made a decision to give back, to inspire the next generation of fighters to believe in their potential. In the weeks that followed, instead of simply basking in his victory, Timmy began organizing training sessions at the local gym. He invited the kids from the neighborhood to join, sharing his story and what boxing meant to him. The first day was a challenge. Many of the kids were hesitant, their eyes filled with doubts similar to those he had once experienced. "Come on, what's holding you back?" he encouraged one boy named Jake, who stood at the entrance, arms crossed and frowning. "I was scared too, but remember, every champion was once a beginner. Let's train together." Slowly, Jake joined, and the others followed suit. Timmy felt a surge of fulfillment watching them work hard, sweat pouring from their brows as they mimicked his movements. He shared not only techniques, but the deeper meaning behind each punch, encouraging them to face their fears head-on. One day, after an intense training session, Timmy gathered the kids and shared the prayer he whispered before each fight. "When I say those words, I ask for strength not just for me, but to uplift all of you, to be brave in pursuing your dreams." Their eyes widened in awe, realizing that their own journeys, though different, could be fueled by the same spirit of resilience and courage. Each child now viewed boxing as not just a sport, but a pathway to self-discovery and empowerment. As months passed, the small gym became a hive of energy, a community forged through shared struggle and triumph. Timmy reflected on how far he had come, not just as a fighter, but as a mentor, grounded in the knowledge that his legacy would be about more than titles. It would be about the lives he touched along the way. Timmy's journey taught him invaluable lessons. Victory was sweet, but its true essence lay in uplifting others and forging connections. He had turned a simple prayer into a mission, transforming the fears that had once haunted him into the driving force for a new generation. So, what did you think of this story? Leave your comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, share with your friends, and don't forget to like. But most importantly, click the hype button. Seriously, this is crucial for the channel to grow and bring more amazing stories like this to you. It only takes a second, but it helps a lot. See you next time.